Resourceful Designer, episode 141, Why You Should Join Your Chamber of Commerce.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer Podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now your host. He's a head and shoulders guy, Mark DeCote.
Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm always happy when you join me to listen to whatever topic I choose, and I do hope that the ones I choose help you and your design business. Now, in this week's episode, I'm going to discuss what, in my opinion, is one of the best ways to grow your design business. I'm also going to share a resource of the week for your stock photo needs before ending the episode with a question from Penn about the steps involved in building a website. Now, it's been a fun week for me so far. I made a presentation earlier in the week to a large company. They've hired me to do their rebrand, and it all started off with the logo. So I did a logo presentation to them, and they absolutely loved what I presented. So now I have a lot of work to get to, websites and stationery and signage and vehicle wraps and the whole bit, because this is a complete rebrand. It's the company has relocated to my area, and they've decided to rename themselves. So everything that they have, all their material prior, is getting scrapped, and I'm now designing everything for them. So very excited about that project. I've also taken on two more websites, very small websites. In fact, one of them is only going to be a 2 or 3 page website, much smaller than the websites I'm used to doing, but it's for an existing client, and they asked me to do something, and it'll be an easy job, so I do that. I've also been contacted by a couple that twice this week I was contacted by a very old client. These are clients that I haven't done work for in years. In fact, in my invoicing software, I have all my clients listed in my invoicing software. I had moved them long ago into the inactive clients list. But 2 of those clients reached out to me this week for some new projects. They, as I said, we haven't talked in years, but they want to do something. So I don't know if those are going forward yet. We're still at the preliminary discussion stage, but it's kind of fun when an old client comes back to you like that. They were good clients. I don't know what happened. They just fell on the wayside, and we hadn't talked in quite a while. So it's been a fun week for me. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, I want to share a new resource of the week. And I say new, it's new to me. In all honesty, I don't know how long this website's been around. And it's a stock photo site called OnePixel. And you can get to it at onepixel.com. Now, this is one, I don't even know how I came across it. I came across it a couple of weeks ago, and I had it open, the website. I just minimized it, and I was going through I had a whole bunch of web browser windows minimized on my computer here. And I started going through some of them to say, what are these things? Like, why did I minimize these? And one of them was OnePixel. So I decided to go through and examine it further. And what I like about OnePixel, first of all, upon first viewing, the stock images that they have. And I have to say right off the bat, it's stock photos. Unlike some other sites that mix, I couldn't see any vector or illustrations on OnePixel. It's all photography. But compared to a lot of other stock photo sites, these were some beautiful shots. They definitely look like they were taken from professionals or by professionals. Some of the other stock photo sites, if you look at them, they don't look like they were professionally shot. Well, OnePixel's definitely did to me, at least the ones I looked at. But what's great about OnePixel is that every photo on their site is $1. And unlike some other sites where there's subscriptions or credits, you don't have to buy anything. You find a site or you find a photo on their site that you like, you buy it for $1, and that's it. And all their photos are royalty free. They're all legally cleared for commercial, editorial, and personal use, which means that they're 100% safe for you, for your organization, for your clients, and to use on any creative project that you're creating. And with no subscriptions, no credits, no hidden fees, no minimum purchases, you can go there, find one image, pay $1, and it's yours. So I've bookmarked this site. As you know, I am a big proponent to deposit photos. I've been using them for years. I even have an affiliate with them if you go to resourcefuldesigner.com/deposit photos. And I love them because of their whole one credit, one image system. And most of the times you can get credits for $1 each. They often have sales where you can buy 100 credits for $100, or I think right now they have 30 credits for $30. I personally had bought my credits during a AppSumo special where I think I paid $30 for 100 credits. So it was even better deal, but they haven't offered that one in quite a while. But again, with deposit photos, it's credits you have to buy beforehand. So I have a couple of hundred credits that I've already paid for. I'm just waiting to use them up on images. But with OnePixel, you don't need to buy anything in advance. You only pay whenever you actually purchase the image, and all images are $1. Now, again, sites like Deposit Photos and some of the other Shutterstock and that also have vector images and illustrations, which by the looks of it, OnePixel doesn't. I did numerous searches just to see what sort of photos came up, and not once did I ever see anything that looked like an illustration or a vector image. So I don't know when this site popped up, if it's one that's been around for a while, but it's one I just found out about within the last couple of weeks. So if you do require some stock images for your work on the projects you do, I highly recommend you check out OnePixel at onepixel.com. And now, why you should join your Chamber of Commerce. Now, this is a topic that I've actually been sitting on for quite a while. In fact, I had the whole Chamber of Commerce topic on my list of possible subjects to discuss before I even started the Resourceful Designer podcast. Whenever I was thinking of starting a podcast, I created a list of topics to see, do I have enough things to talk about? Well, joining a Chamber of Commerce was on that list. But for one reason or the other, since I started the podcast, there have been, first of all, numerous times where I was thinking, okay, next episode I'm going to talk about this, but then something would come up or something would happen, or I would read something or hear something that would prompt another idea, and I would bump this one to the side. Well, I've been doing that for long enough. I think this one really merits to be talked about because I truly believe that joining your Chamber of Commerce is one of the most important things about running your business that should not be overlooked. And it really merits being talked about. Now, in case you're not familiar with what a Chamber of Commerce is, sometimes in some areas, they are referred to as a board of trade, but Chamber of Commerce is the most common name. Now, what a Chamber of Commerce is they are an association or a network of businesses and business people that are formed with the purpose of promoting and protecting the interest of its members and its businesses that are part of the Chamber of Commerce. Now, you can find Chamber of Commerces all around the world, in every country. So it doesn't matter where you're listening from, there's probably a Chamber of Commerce near you. Now, as I said, sometimes they might be called Board of Trades, but they're pretty much the same thing. Now, I did a little bit of research for this episode, and it turns out that the very first Chamber of Commerce was actually formed in Marseille, France, in the year 1599. So that's how long these things have been around. The very first one formed in the USA was in New York City in the year 1768. So Chamber of Commerces are not something new. Now, one of the roles of your local Chamber of Commerce is to debate, promote, and lobby for and against municipal, state or provincial, and even federal policies and laws that affect businesses in your area. Now, the Chamber has no direct role in creating laws or regulations, but they are very, very effective in influencing the people who do create those laws and regulations. Now, at the municipal level, which is mostly what I'm talking about now, because there are municipal Chamber of Commerces, there are statewide or provincial-wide chambers, and there's federal Chamber of Commerces, but mostly it's the municipal one I want to talk about today. And at the municipal level, your Chamber of Commerce is there to advocate and promote its members. And that's the main reason why I think you should join your Chamber of Commerce. Now, by joining the Chamber of Commerce, you get many benefits. And every chamber is a little bit different, but across the board, most chambers will have these benefits in common. One is you get listed in their member directory. Most chambers nowadays have an online directory that lists all its members and usually with links back to your website. So right there, you're creating another backlink to your site. And if you know anything about SEO, that's very valuable. And coming from a Chamber of Commerce website usually holds a lot of juice, a lot of sway. So a backlink from that is very good for your website. Now, the Chamber of Commerce doesn't necessarily only have an online directory. I know my local Chamber of Commerce puts out a printed directory that they hand out to all members. And sometimes they have directories for the public to use and access as well. Now, another benefit of joining your Chamber of Commerce is most of them will offer discounts. Maybe not the Chamber itself, but Chamber members, other businesses and business people that belong to the Chamber will often offer discounts or deals to other Chamber members. So these are specials that are only available to people that are members of the Chamber of Commerce. Now, another benefit is just having your business promoted in your region. The Chamber of Commerce usually does a good job of promoting its members. It's trying to grow its member base. And one way of doing that is by showing people that are not already members what they do for their members. So they'll often promote the businesses that are members of the Chamber. Another benefit that might not affect your business in a straight away manner is by being a member of the Chamber of Commerce, you do have some say in how your local business policies are shaped. As I mentioned, the Chamber of Commerce doesn't actually make the rules and regulations for businesses, but they do influence the people who do. So as a Chamber member, you get a vote on certain things to decide how the Chamber is going to react. So you have a say in changing business policies in your area. Now, the other thing that's great about Chamber of Commerce is a lot of them will put on special events. They'll hold special talks where they'll get really high-profile guests in, experts in certain fields or niches to come in and talk. They put on networking events. They put on trade shows, all sorts of things like that. And most of them are either free for Chamber members or heavily discounted for Chamber members. I know my local Chamber, if I want to set up a booth at a trade show, the price, if you're a Chamber member, is almost half the price of people who are not Chamber members. Everybody is allowed to set up a booth, but you have to pay for it. And if you're a Chamber member, you're paying almost a 50% discount for being so. And finally, one of the biggest benefits for joining the Chamber is that it adds credibility to your business. Now, why should you, as a designer, whether you're a graphic designer or a web designer, whether you do websites or print or whatever, maybe you're a UI or UX designer, why should you join your Chamber of Commerce? Well, the main reason that I suggest, and I strongly suggest, that you join your local Chamber of Commerce is for the support it brings from like-minded business people that can help you succeed in your business, especially if you're starting out, but not just. I mean, it doesn't matter how long you've been in business. Joining your Chamber of Commerce can help you. You know that networking is a key element in growing your design business. If nobody knows who you are, how are they going to know to hire you? Well, joining your Chamber of Commerce gives you an opportunity to both meet and to network with other local business owners. Not just business workers, but business owners, the people in those businesses who make the decisions, the people who hire the designers. Imagine your Chamber of Commerce as an exclusive club, and a lot of the members take that club very seriously, and they will often look to fellow Chamber members whenever they need any kind of service before looking elsewhere. And that includes design services just like yours. I know myself, I have several clients that I've had for years that the reason I have those clients is because I was a member of the Chamber of Commerce. They first contacted me because they found me on the Chamber directory because it was the very first place they look for any service or product that they require. So by looking through the directory, they needed a designer, they found me listed, they contacted me, and now they're clients. Now, a few of them have also contacted me because they just asked the Chamber, I need a website, I need a poster, I need a new logo, who should I get? And the Chamber are the one that recommended they contact me because I was a member. And don't forget the Chamber itself. The Chamber, I mentioned earlier, puts on all sorts of trade shows and events and special get-togethers and networking things. Well, by doing all of this, the Chamber itself requires design services. And who do you think they'll ask? One of their members. They're not going to go hire somebody else, especially their whole mandate is to promote business and to promote their membership. They're not going to go hire a designer who's not a member. So if you are lucky enough to be the only web designer or the only graphic designer who is a member of your Chamber of Commerce, guess what? You will get all of that business. Now, if there's more than one, most chambers, what they'll do is they'll kind of distribute the work. They'll give one job to this person, one job to that person, one job to that person. Because again, they're there to promote all their businesses. So they want to work with everybody who's a member. I joined my local Chamber of Commerce 12 years ago in 2006 when I went full-time with my business. And in the time that I've been a chamber member, they've hired me for, I don't know how many, numerous projects. And if I look through my invoicing system right now, I look back through the history, I can see that I'd invoiced the Chamber of Commerce for over $60,000. Now, if you do the math, $60,000 over 12 years, so that's roughly about $5,000 per year that I make or that I invoice to the Chamber of Commerce. Now, that's not too bad considering that my chamber's membership costs me $180 per year. So I'm paying $180 a year to be a member of the chamber, and they're sending me business worth $5,000 every year. Plus the other perks of them recommended me to other people whenever they need something, a service that I offer. Now, another reason you should be joining your chamber is because they give you free marketing. Let me repeat that. Free marketing. Now, the free marketing may come in the form of exposure through physical or electronic newsletters, through the chamber's social media posts, and of course, other forms of publication. My local Chamber of Commerce puts out a magazine once per year that just talks about the area. The whole purpose of it is to try to draw industry and other businesses to relocate to our area. And in that magazine, they will often showcase the people who are already in this area and talk about what a great place it is to run a business. So if you're lucky, you can be featured. I've been featured in that magazine before. It's been a few years since my feature showed up, but I was in that magazine talking about my business and how I've grown my design business in the area. Because the chamber loves spreading the word about their members. I mentioned that most chambers put out a newsletter. Some of them put out a physical, some of them it's only an email or electronic newsletter. Well, make sure the chamber knows what you're up to. If you designed a new logo or a new website for a fellow chamber member, let the chamber know. And I can almost guarantee you that in their next newsletter, they're going to tell every single member about what you did. So it's great promotion for you and for the business that you designed the logo, the website, whatever for. And that's free promotion. And by the way, if you are a chamber member and your chamber does send out newsletters, please be sure you read the chamber newsletter. Chamber of Commerces are often the first ones to break the news of new businesses setting up in your area. Either new business or an existing business that's relocating. They're often the ones that will talk about it first before even the newspapers or news outlets in your area. Talk about a great way to get your foot in the door to people who need your design services. Imagine the Chamber of Commerce breaking a story about a brand new industry that just bought property in your area. This is not somebody that's relocating, but it's a brand new business that just bought property and they plan on breaking ground, who knows, a year from now. Well, now you've just been given the name of a brand new industry coming to your area that may require your services. Reach out to them. Let them know that you heard about them through the Chamber of Commerce and offer your services. It's a great way to get your foot in the door. Now, many people and many businesses, whether they are a chamber member or not, view their local Chamber of Commerce as an authority when they're looking for products and services. I just mentioned the newsletter and how they will often promote new businesses not starting or relocating to your area. Well, a lot of those new businesses or existing businesses that are relocating to your area will turn first to the Chamber of Commerce for help and guidance on finding local talent to work with. Yes, they may be looking for things like electricians and plumbers and contractors because they're not going to take those from out of town. If they're moving to your area, they're going to need to hire the local people to do that. But in the process, They may ask the Chamber of Commerce, who do you recommend for a website or for branding or logo or a car wrap or whatever it is you do? Businesses will turn to the Chamber of Commerce for that information because they trust the opinion of the Chamber of Commerce and they trust the businesses that the Chamber recommends to them. And of course, I mentioned earlier, the Chamber is in the business of promoting its members. So it doesn't matter if there is 10 qualified designers in the area. If you are the only one that's a Chamber member, guess who the Chamber is going to recommend? They'll recommend you before any of the other people out there. The only time they will recommend a non-Chamber member is if there's no members that fall under that category or niche that somebody's looking for. Then they will look and find somebody in the community that best suits the recommendation. But if there is somebody that is a Chamber member, guaranteed that's the first person they're going to recommend. I found some numbers about chambers of commerce according to the American Business Magazine. According to this publication, they say that 44% of consumers are more likely to think favorably of businesses who are members of their local Chamber of Commerce. 51% of businesses are more aware of businesses who are Chamber members than businesses who are not. 63% of consumers are more likely to buy a product or service from businesses who are members of their local Chamber of Commerce. How about this one? Consumers view Chamber of Commerce members as trustworthy and are 57% more likely to believe their products or services are better than their competition. And finally, there's a 63% increase in the likelihood that someone who does not require your services right now will use you in the future just because they know you're a member of the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, I could end the podcast right now. I don't really have to say anything else. Just look at those numbers. They should be enough to convince you that joining your Chamber of Commerce is a great move for your business. But of course, I'm not going to end the podcast now because I have a few more notes to discuss here. Remember when I said earlier that one of the perks of joining the Chamber of Commerce is to be listed in their membership directory? Well, did you know that that directory is usually available to the public? In most cases, the Chamber makes it available to the public. And since, as I said, Chamber of Commerces have a reputation for promoting good business, having your name listed in the Chamber's directory automatically associates you with them and automatically gives the perception that you too are a good business to deal with. Before they even talk to you, before they even know anything about you, just the fact that you are a member of the Chamber of Commerce, in some people's mind, automatically makes them think that you are a good business to work with. Which means that as a result of that, clients that know you're a Chamber member will have a more positive impression of your business, of your skills, and they will trust you more. Now, the great thing about that membership directory is that you also have access to it. Now, a lot of times you could promote your services to those members, either do it on your own, reach out to them, or you do it through the Chamber's promotional avenues. I know my local Chamber of Commerce, you can pay a very small fee and send a special email out to all Chamber members. It's done through the Chamber, so the email actually comes from the Chamber of Commerce. But if you're having a promotion or a deal or anything, or you're offering a new service, you can pay a very, very small fee, and they will email that information out to all their Chamber members. So it's a great way for you to promote yourself. Now, another thing is just look at the directory yourself. Being a fellow Chamber member is a great way to break the ice. We all know that cold calling is dreaded. We hate. Nobody enjoys cold calling a business. But imagine if you can send a letter to somebody, send an email saying something like, "Hi, John, I was looking through the Chamber directory and noticed that you're a fellow Chamber member like I am. And I was wondering if you had time available for us to meet and discuss your overall brand strategy to see what we can do to help grow your business." Sending a message like that, simply mentioning that you are a fellow Chamber member, may be all it needs for John to change his, just delete this email, to, maybe I'll say yes and have a meeting with this person. Again, it's that credibility and that trust factor. Knowing that you're a fellow Chamber member may be all you need to get that foot in the door for that business. Now, of course, you can also offer them a special discount, like say that, I'm offering a discount or I'm offering a deal or a reduced rate on something that I'm only offering to fellow chamber members. If you want to take me up on the offer, send me an email or contact me or whatever. So because of that, your Chamber of Commerce should be viewed as almost a business partner. It is a valuable tool for any business owner. And if it's fully utilized to its full potential, it can and it will help grow your business. Now, of course, I mentioned earlier, every Chamber of Commerce is different. Each one is unique in its own way. They offer different benefits, they offer different resources, they offer different opportunities to their members. However, their end goal is pretty much the same. Chamber of Commerces are there to serve as an influential voice and power for the well-being of businesses in their local environment. And that includes helping to promote and improve the growth of all local businesses, including yours. So joining your Chamber of Commerce will gain you access to opportunities to make connections. It'll help you meet potential new clients, and it'll help you gain exposure for your business. Now, one more thing before I finish. I've been talking about your local Chamber of Commerce. But did you know you can also become a member of other Chamber of Commerces? You don't have to live in the area in order to join the Chamber of Commerce there. I'm personally a member of 3 different Chamber of Commerces. I belong to the small one in the township where I live. I belong to the larger, and I would consider it the main Chamber of Commerce for the large city that's just adjacent to the township where I live. But I'm also a member of a Chamber of Commerce for a community that's about an hour away from me. And this third one is interesting. I was hired to be the designer for it's a yearly event that this community puts on. It's around the holidays, they do this festival, and I was hired to be the designer for this festival. Now, part of the mandate, they have a board of directors for this festival, and part of the mandate for the festival is that they only use local talent. Well, I'm not local. I live over an hour away from them. So technically, I don't qualify as a person to design for them. They do have local people, but they've tried the local people and they weren't happy with what they were getting. It's a small community and there's not a lot of designers around there. And I was recommended to them. So the head of the board, the chairman of the board, asked me if I would be willing to join their Chamber of Commerce, because one of their mandates was, as a chamber member, and sometimes it's not just businesses, you can have events and festivals and not join the Chamber of Commerce. Well, this festival, as a member of the Chamber of Commerce, one of their mandates was they would try to hire people from the Chamber of Commerce as well as local people. So the chairman of the board asked me, he says, "Are you willing to join the Chamber of Commerce?" And I said yes, and that was enough to create a loophole that allowed them to hire me in order to design all their stuff. So I'm not a local member. I don't live anywhere near their community, but because I am a member of that local Chamber of Commerce, they were able to hire me to do their work. So if you live in an area that is not served by a Chamber of Commerce, or if you live in a small community with maybe a less active Chamber of Commerce, look at joining adjacent chambers. There's nothing wrong with joining a Chamber of Commerce for a huge city that's not too far away. And you can actually join something across the country if you want. It might make it a little bit more difficult, but there's no reason or nothing stopping you if, say, you live outside a bigger metropolitan area. You might not be part of that community, but you can still join the Chamber of Commerce for that community and benefit from that membership. Now, the last point I want to make here before ending this topic is something that I'm kind of hoping I don't have to say, but I'm going to say it anyways. And that's simply joining your Chamber of Commerce is not enough. You can't just pay your yearly membership fee, sit back, and wait for new clients to come to you. Yes, the Chamber recommends within its own, but if there are multiple designers, web designers, UI designer, whatever service you offer, if there are multiple members that offer the same service and you never partake in any of the chamber activities, but there's one of the other ones that is always there, always front and center, always being seen, chances are the chamber will recommend them before you, Or if they give a list of people for somebody to contact, you won't be the first one on that list. They'll say, here, contact this person or this person or this person or you. So the only way you get the work that way is if things don't work out with the other people higher up on the list. So you can't just sit back and wait for people to come. You need to take advantage of what the chamber offers, and you need to partake in the events that they put on. You need to get your face out there. Go to the networking events. Go to the talks. Go to the presentations. Just being seen, being known, the chamber will take notice and it will help benefit you. Remember, you want this to be a partnership. If you want them to help you, you have to partake in what they are doing as well. Because people still need to know who you are and what you do before they'll hire you. And by joining your Chamber of Commerce, your chances of success are much, much higher than if you tried to do this all on your own without being a chamber member. And finally, in case you need any more incentive, if what I've already discussed isn't enough to convince you that you should at least look into joining your Chamber of Commerce, remember that whatever fee your Chamber of Commerce is charging you, that membership fee is tax deductible. Now, I would love to know if you are already a member of your local Chamber of Commerce, or if I've convinced you and you've gone to join your local Chamber of Commerce. It has helped me a lot in my business. I calculated how much I've actually billed them, the Chamber of Commerce, just over $60,000 since I joined. But that's not counting all the work they've sent my way through other people, new clients that I have, that have come to me through the Chamber of Commerce. So I would love to know your experiences with your Chamber of Commerce. Please let me know by leaving a comment for this episode by visiting resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 141. And now, this week's question of the week. And this week's question comes in from Penn. And this is another question. This was submitted a while back, and I never got around to it. As I mentioned in the previous weeks, I've been going through my past questions. For some reason, every once in a while, there was one that just slipped through my radar. Well, this was another one of those. So Penn's question was, hi, Mark. I have a question for you regarding web and graphic design. I graduated with a degree in graphic design 10 years ago, but during all that time, I never really pushed myself to get involved in the web design and learn how to do it well. Now I've come to the point in my career where I need to start doing extra work on my own time. But I realize that clients need web and mobile design more than ever before, and perhaps more than most other type of designs. As a result, I'm using online learning to try to get familiar with HTML, CSS, and other web design essentials in order to be able to serve new clients with those skills. Could you explain on a podcast episode the steps you take to actually designing and building a website? And any helpful insight or resources that unveil some of the mysteries surrounding this process would mean a whole lot. Well, thank you very much for the question, Penn. And first of all, it's great that you're going in to learn all these things. You're taking courses to learn HTML, CSS. There's nothing wrong with that. Knowing those skills are very, very helpful. I will say, though, that they are not 100% pertinent. Now, some people may disagree with me, but if you learn WordPress, which is what I've translated to, or maybe that's not the right word, but I use WordPress exclusively now. And there are many people that are very successful at web design using WordPress, and they don't know HTML or CSS because of the nature of the platform. Now, every website's a bit different, of course. So there's no step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is how you build a website. But I'll give you a little bit of my process, how I go about doing it. First of all, every website starts with, I call it a flow chart. I usually sit down with the client and we discuss this. I first have the client do one, and then I will then tweak the flow chart. And this is simply take a sheet of paper with a pencil, and at the top I put a bubble and I'll say, this is the home page. From the home page, I draw a bunch of lines and saying these would be the sub pages. I might have definitely there's going to be a contact page. There might be an about page. There might be a products page. There might be a services page. Whatever the website's about, I create those. And then from each of those sub bubbles, there might be other bubbles. So I create a flow chart of how the website's going to flow, what pages are required on the site. And I work this up with the client. Now, this is just a base. I will often change this as I'm building the site. As I mentioned, I think it was last episode, I was talking about a website I did where in one of those bubbles from the homepage, there was a menu link that brought you to a testimonial page. Well, I decided after starting the build that we didn't need a testimonial page. There wasn't a whole lot of testimonials, and I thought it was better just take those testimonials, get rid of that page altogether, and scatter those testimonials throughout the rest of the site. I thought it would be more effective. So sometimes that flowchart will change, but it's a good way to at least get a feel for what the website's going to look like. Now, some people, I call it a flowchart. Some people might call it a mind map or whatever, but it's just basically an outline of what the website's going to look like, all the pages. My next step is almost always to go choose a color palette. Now, I've shared the resource before. In fact, I shared it was it last episode or the one before? Coolors.co, coolors.co is my go-to. There are some other ones I use as well, but that's usually the very first one I'll go to, and I'll pick a color palette. Now, if the company I'm doing a website for already has some established colors, then I will use those colors, obviously, and I will plug them into Coolors and sometimes find some complementary colors, because you don't want to just use the corporate colors unless they have a style guide that shows you 6, 7, 8 colors that they use with the brand. Then you just stick to those. But sometimes, like say there's a logo and the logo is a 2-color logo or a 3-color logo. Well, you can do a website with only 2 colors or 3 colors, but I usually like to have 5 to 6 colors on a website. So I will go create a color palette. So that's usually my second step, is creating the color palette. Once I have that done, then I get down to the actual website. I will install WordPress. As I mentioned, I install WordPress on every single website. That's all I work on now. I don't do any more hand coding of websites. Everything is on WordPress. And as I've mentioned many times on the podcast before, I design almost exclusively now in Divi theme. And that's the Divi theme from Elegant Themes. If you're interested in knowing more and getting 10% off, visit resourcefuldesigner.com/Divi. That'll take you to a page. And if you scroll to the bottom, there's an offer for 10% off your membership. And for you to know, that's a membership to Elegant Themes, not a membership for Divi. It's Elegant Themes who makes Divi. So when you join, you get Divi amongst all their other. I think they have about 90 themes that you can choose from. I use Divi because it's their most popular, but they also have a lot of plugins and stuff that are really, really good that you get for your membership. So it's a membership to Elegant Themes, but I usually say it's Divi because that's the reason I join. Actually, that's not true. I actually was a member of Elegant Themes before they developed Divi, but it's the theme that I use from them now. Anyways, so I install WordPress, I install Divi, and then I will install a predetermined set of plugins. Now, I've already talked about this back in episode 89 of the podcast, which was titled Checklists and Your Design Business. And in that episode, I talked about the different plugins and how I have a checklist of plugins that I install on every single WordPress website that I build, including installing the Divi theme. Now, if you want a list of those plugins, you can visit resourcefuldesigner.com/WP checklist, or there's a link to that on episode 89, which you can get to at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 89. So in that episode, I have a checklist of all the plugins that I install. It's the first thing I do. I install WordPress, I install Divi, and then I install these plugins. Once those plugins are done, then I start working on the website. So go get that list that I just mentioned from the link I just mentioned, and I'll include these lists in the show notes for this episode. So if you want to visit resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 141, you'll have all these listed here as well. So that's the framework of the website that I'm going to build. Then it comes time to actually designing. And I always design the common areas first. And by common areas, I'm talking about the header and the footer. Now, the header sometimes, depending on the website, might be more than just the logo and the menu at the top. If there's going to be something wider, like I did a website where there was a hero image, so it had a bar at the top which had the logo and their tagline. Then there was a menu, and then there was an image underneath. And that image would be common, that image area was common on every single page. And the website I did, it just so happened it was for hearing aids. And every single page had that same hero area, but every page had a different image. So it was always an image of somebody in a situation where hearing aids may benefit them. So at, somebody sitting in a movie theater, somebody at a park, somebody at a sports arena. So every page had a different image, but that was all part of the header image. So I designed the header area, including that hero image space, because it's going to be common to all the pages. Then I would design the footer because, again, it's common to everything. So once I have the top of the page designed and then the footer area, my next step is to design any global areas. And the global area is something like that's for Divi. When you create modules, you can create a global module. And those are mostly like call to actions and stuff. So say in the case like for the hearing aid website, they want people to book an appointment. So I created a global item, which was a call to action in order for people to book an appointment. There was an appointment page that people can go to and fill out a form. Well, every other page on the website had that exact same call to action. So as people are visiting the website, at the bottom of a page, there was a bar or a colored area with a button on it that said, you want to book your appointment now, click here. So that was a global area or a global item for the site. So I designed that because I know it's going to be on every page. Once I have those three things designed, the header, the footer, and any global items, then I start designing the pages themselves, each page, the home page and all the sub pages, each one individually. Now, in my case, I come from a background of print design. I started off in print design before I switched over to web or before I introduced web to my services. So a lot of my mentality goes back to just proper print design, layout and spacing and font choices and columns, and that a lot of it comes from just experience and again, based on the technique and the theory behind proper layouts. And I will just construct my pages those ways, and I just do it visually. But by that point, it's really simple to build every page because the header, the footer, and any global areas are already done. So I just need to design the contents of the page, and I design each page as if I was designing a printing piece, but keeping in mind that it has to be mobile and responsive and all that. So you take those things into consideration. Now, one quick comment on the global areas I was talking about. The reason I call them global areas is in Divi, you can create what's called a global module or a global section. And what they mean by global is it's the same on every website or every page. And the reason it's called global is because if at some point you decide you want to change it, like say you decide that, you don't like the wording book your appointment now, you want it to change it to book your appointment today instead of now. You can go in and change one of them and it'll change all of them. That's what makes it global. So you create these sections and then you only need to update one of them and it updates every single instance of that across the website. So it saves you a lot of time. So I love the global section, global modules and that in Divi for that reason alone. So what a pain it would be if you had to go back through 100 different pages. If it's a larger or even bigger website, go back through hundreds of pages just to change one little thing. So that's pretty much the steps I will take. Then, as I said, I'll design each individual page. I'll make sure all the menus are working, all the links and everything. And then I'll show it to the client. Now, of course, there's other things I'm not talking about, like making sure all the images are optimized and choosing fonts, and there's a lot more, but that's the basics of how I go about building every single website that I do for every client. So I hope you found that helpful, Pen, and I do appreciate the question. Sorry it took a little while to get to it. Now, I would love to answer your question in a future episode of the podcast. My mailbag it might be empty. I still have a few emails to go through to see if there were some questions that I might have missed. The problem is some people send long emails just talking about how helpful the podcast has been. And sometimes they'll bury a question like halfway through their email. So I'm going back and rereading all of these just to make sure that there wasn't a question in there that I missed. Or for some reason, just an email that for some reason it was marked as read, but I never actually used the question. So as far as I know, my mailbag is empty. So now's the perfect time to get your question answered because it won't take long for me to get to it. If you have one, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/feedback and submit your question. Now, I'd like to share another great 5-star review I received on iTunes. And this one came in from IMBCG in the US iTunes store. And it says, greatest podcast ever. Well, I don't know about that, but I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. It says, I love listening to Mark speak. His episodes are all well built and clearly presented. I am a home-based designer in Israel and a mother of 6. Mark, please keep on going. You are very inspiring. God bless you. P.S. I love that I am the first reviewer from Israel. Well, thank you very much for that. Although I do find it funny, the review didn't come from the Israeli store. It came in to the USA iTunes. So technically, I don't actually have a review yet from Israel, but I loved receiving it anyways. So thank you very much for that great review. If you would like to leave a review for the podcast, regardless of where in the world you are, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/iTunes, which should redirect you to the iTunes store in your country where you can leave a review. So thank you very much for that. Now, I also want to thank all my Patreon supporters, everybody that is giving back and helping me with this podcast. I do appreciate you so much. And I will have something new coming for Patreon very shortly. I'm in the final stages of putting all this together before I announce anything. And I'm very excited about this. So keep tuned on that. But in the meantime, thank you to everyone, regardless if whatever your donation level, even if it's just $1 a month, I do appreciate you so much. Now, if you're not already supporting the podcast and you would like to do so, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you too can support the podcast. So that's it for this week's episode. I do thank you so much for tuning in. I want to remind you one more time of the resource of the week, which was onepixel.com, where you can get beautiful stock photos for $1 each. So remember that, and remember, if you're not already a member of your Chamber of Commerce, now's the time to contact them and join. Until next time, I am Mark Decote, wishing you all the best with your graphic design business, and as always, reminding you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer Podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.